Hi friends, welcome to Brian Academy. In this video, I'm going to talk about protein. If this is your first time watching our video or coming across our channel, make sure you like, share, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So let's go ahead and talk about one of the most important biomolecule in the biological system, and that is going to be protein. And then the points I'm going to cover in this video will actually be I'm going to talk about the definition of protein in simple terms, right? Then from there, we're going to talk about the classification of protein. It's very, very important. Then at the same time, we're going to talk about the last one, which is what the functions of protein in the biological system. The functions of protein in the biological system. Then at first, protein, we know that protein is what is a biomolecule, right? And then what kind of biomolecule is a protein? What is protein made up of? Protein is basically a complex polymer of amino acids. And as far as amino acid is concerned, amino acid is basically the monomeric unit of protein, right? And protein is known as the most important biomolecule in the living system. That's just it is the most important biomolecule in the living system, and at the same time, it is the most abundant biomolecule in the living system. You understand? Then, if you are trying to take it like, let me say, compare it with carbohydrates on heart, you understand? Carbohydrates is the most abundant on heart, but in the living system, protein is the most abundant because for every single life activity that is carried out by the body, it is actually carried out by what? By the protein. Be it is also enzyme, be it is hormones, different kind of functions. You understand? That is actually performed by what? By protein. Another fun point I want you guys to understand when it comes to protein is that protein are synthesized in the body through transcription translation processes. You understand what I'm saying now? That's how they are synthesized. But in case of amino acid, I'm going to talk about it separately in the different video. But just know that as far as the definition of protein is concerned, protein are complex polymer of amino acid, and at the same time, protein are the most abundant biomolecule in the living system, and they are the most important biomolecule in the living system. You understand what I'm saying now? Yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about the classification. So basically, as far as classification is concerned, we have two different classification I'm going to talk about in this video, and I want you guys to just calm down and listen carefully to what I'm about to say. Now, when it comes to classification of protein, protein is generally classified into three types. You understand? Like, it's generally divided into three classes. Then the first one that we have, let me simply say, I'm having my protein here. I'm having my protein here, right? Protein. Like the first class of protein that we have is actually the most, let me say, very, very common one, because whenever they are hydrolyzed, they give amino acid, simple amino acid. You understand? Those protein from the word they give amino acid, they are basically, whenever they are hydrolyzed, they give amino acid. That's basically what it means. That is, they are protein. Let me simply say they are simple protein. Simple protein are protein that's whenever they are hydrolyzed, they give amino acid. That's simple protein, right? And then they are made up of small, like, let me simply say, their size, molecular weight is not as heavy as compared to other protein that we have. You understand? Then the next one that we have is actually, let me simply say, we have the next one, right? We have the conjugated protein. Conjugated protein. From here, simple protein are said to be made up of completely their amino acids. You understand what I'm saying? But in case of conjugated protein is, let me simply say, apart from amino acid or apart from protein units, they are made up of another parts, which can be anything, which can be any element or compound, which I'm going to talk about in this video. Now, we have conjugated protein, right? And then the last one is the derivative of both the simple and conjugated, which is actually called what? The derived protein, right? The derived protein. We have the simple protein, we have conjugated protein, and derived protein. Then, based on the function, the simple protein is further divided into two based on their function. You understand what I'm saying now? We have the scleral protein, which actually serves as support. You understand what I'm saying now? That's basically down with the first one. So let me just go ahead. Simple protein is further divided into two. You understand? Then under this guy, we have the most common one, which is actually called the globular protein. Globular protein, they have global shape. You understand what I'm saying now? That's globular protein. Then further classification, we have the scleral protein. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm going to give you guys example, right? Conjugated protein is still what conjugated protein. You understand what I'm saying? Because we have different type of them. We have those that are actually what let me say they are conjugated with what with metals. We have some those that are actually what conjugated with what with lipid. We have those that are conjugated with what with carbohydrates, right? Then that's just what conjugated protein. We are going to leave it like that because it's not further divided to anything except what the simple, which is divided into globular and scleroprotein, and also we have derived. Derived is also what is also derived, like it's also let me say divided into what into two actually, because when it comes to derived protein, they are protein that's basically they are derived from what from simple and conjugated, but either through they are derived through either enzymatic what degradation, or either through what through heat, or treatment with what with acid or base. That is basically what derived protein. That is whenever you take your simple or conjugated protein, you treat it with an acid. And don't forget, whenever you treat a protein with an acid, it's going to undergo a process that we call what denaturization. That is, you are basically what destroying what the native structure was of protein. You understand what I'm saying now? And in that scenario, whenever protein is what is treated, you understand what I'm saying now? The results, or let me say the remnant protein that we're going to have is called what the derived. Derived protein are basically derived from what from conjugated protein or what or simple protein. Example, sorry, they are divided into two classes before we move to the example. The two classes of the protein that we have is actually what we have the primary, and also what we have the secondary. Do you get it now? So you have the primary and the secondary. So now once again, let's come back here. Same protein is what is divided into two. We have the globular protein and also scleroprotein. Globular protein, they are basically what global in what in shape, and scleroprotein, they are basically what they perform what the structural what and the structural what function what in the body. They give strength and support what to the body tissue. That is what scleroprotein. Then conjugated protein, they are formed from a like they are formed from the combination of the protein and also what non-protein part. The non-protein part is usually called what the prosthetic group. Are you getting it down? That is basically what conjugated protein. You understand? Let me just come back to my point. Prosthetic group, they are basically what a kind of what of group, or let me say a kind of what of element or compound that are tightly bound to a protein molecule. Whenever any element compound are tightly bound to a protein molecule, we call them prosthetic group. Why? Because there are no protein parts of what of the compound of the molecule. Are you getting it down? So conjugated protein basically contain what the protein parts and what non-protein parts. So depending on the non-protein parts, we have different types of them, which I'm going to give you the example in a moment. Then the next one I have is actually what the derived protein, which is further divided into primary and also what the secondary. You understand? Based on their mode of hydrolysis. The three things that can actually cause what the hydrolysis of protein. We have the first one. We have the heat, right? We have what treatment with acid, right, or what or base. In this case, treatment with acid or base. Then the next one we have what we have enzymatic degradation. You understand what I'm saying? That's basically through what through digestive process. You are hydrolyzing them using what enzymes. Are you getting it down? So in case of let me say it says secondary. Secondary falls on enzyme. Any protein that is actually what degraded by the action of what of enzyme, they fall under what secondary derived what protein. I get it down. Then from there, when it comes to heat and also what treatment with acid or base, in that case, heat and acid or base, they actually what denatured what the structure of what of enzyme, thereby of what of protein, thereby causing that protein to lose its function. Right? So the other protein part that we are getting, whenever we treat a protein with what a derived protein with heat or treatment, they fall under what under primary derived protein. Do you get sound? So let's go ahead and move to example of everything, and I'm going to give you guys some mnemonics that will actually help you guys to understand everything. All the examples of globular protein, scleroprotein, primary, and also secondary protein. You understand now? So now let's move to it. To give you guys example on globular protein, scleroprotein, conjugated protein, primary protein, and secondary protein. And at the same time, I'm going to be giving you guys some mnemonics that will allow you to understand it and be able to remember it quickly. Now, under the globular protein, we have hope made LD, or let me say hope made every LD apple amazing. It's making sense, right? Hope made every LD apple amazing. It's very, very simple. If you're able to give 6 examples, it's actually enough. You understand? Then under scleroprotein, we have cool kids right? Cool kids enjoy football. Exactly. Cool kids enjoy football. It's making sense at the same time. That's just for example of what of scleroprotein. Then under this conjugated protein, we have different things. I'm going to give you like this. Let me just put it here. Conjugated protein, right? Then what I'm going to have other conjugated protein, let's basically call it that's going to be great leader. Great leader make powerful. Great leader make powerful choices now. You understand? Great leader make powerful choices now is an example of conjugated protein. I'm going to give you guys what it actually mean. Then under this primary and secondary, I'm going to be giving you later. So let's quickly talk about all these ones. Now, what does it mean? You understand? Globular protein, they are protein that are, let me say they have a global, like let me say oval shape. You understand? They say I have something oval shape. That's actually globular. You understand? Just like globe. You understand? From word globe or bob. You understand? So now let's continue. Under this O, H simply represents what? Hemoglobin. You understand? It's an example of globular protein. This oxygen, this O here is basically what? Oxygen. It will allow you to remember that, okay, hemoglobin actually what? It transports oxygen. You understand? That is O, hemoglobin. Then the next one that we have is what? Is made. Under this made, I'm going to represent as what? As myoglobin. A protein that actually store oxygen in what? In the muscle cell. That's basically what? Myoglobin. Then from there we have every. Made every here in this case represents what? Enzyme. We have some enzymes that are global in what? In shape. Like the case of what? Of amylase is they have globular what? Shape. That's enzyme. Hemoglobin, myoglobin, enzyme. Example amylase, right? Then we have what? LD. From the word LD, you should know we have what? Some hormones that are also what? They have what? Globular what? Shape. Hormones. Hormones. You understand? They have globular what? Shape. Example, we have what? Insulin and also what? Glucagon. You understand? So hope made every LD apple. Apple in this case represents what? Antibodies. You understand? Antibodies. You understand? They also have what? Globular what? Shape. That's hope made every LD apple amazing. And this amazing is going to be what? Is going to be albumin. You understand? So that's basically what these are the example of globular protein. Hemoglobin, myoglobin, enzyme, hormones, antibodies, and so what? Albumin. Then the next one we have what? Under scleroprotein, it's very simple. Cool from the word cool, collagen. You understand? That's what it represents. Collagen. You understand? And don't forget that collagen, they actually what? Form their structural what? Let me say their structural protein. They give what? Support. They help what? To support body tissue. We have collagen. We have KITs. That's basically what? Keratin. You understand? Kids, keratin. Then we have enjoy. Cool kid enjoy. This enjoy is basically what represents what? Elastin, right? And then we have what? Football. You understand? Football. It's actually not really a common type. It's mostly found what? In wool. And that's actually what? Fibroin. You understand? That's basically the example of what? Of scleroprotein that we have. You understand what I'm saying now? So you have collagen, keratin, elastin, and so what? Fibroin. So that's basically what cool kids enjoy what? Football. The first one, hope made every healthy apple amazing. Hemoglobin, myoglobin, enzymes, hormones, antibodies, and so what? Albumin. Right? Then let's just go ahead and move to conjugated protein. Now, under this conjugated protein, we have great leader make powerful choices now. Now, in that case, great we simply represent a types of what? Of let me say conjugated protein, which I'm going to call what? The glycoprotein. And whenever you hear the word glycoprotein, it basically means it contains a non-protein part and a protein part, right? And in that case, the non-protein part is forming a prosthetic group with what? With the protein part, right? So glycoprotein, this glyco basically represents what? The word carbohydrate. It means this comes from carbohydrate, and basically we are going to be having protein, or let me say carbohydrate, because the percentage of carbohydrate here is actually low compared to protein, because in that case protein is the functional group actually. You understand? Let me say the functional group, that's why we are having protein here. So glycoprotein, that's basically carbohydrates, right, plus protein. That's what we have, proteins, right? That's what we have under this glycoprotein, right? Then leader, Great leader. This leader simply represents what? A special type of what? Of protein. Alright, and that is going to be called, what? That's lipoprotein. You understand? And lipoprotein, example of what? Of carb, or let me say, or example of glycoprotein, we have what? We have mucin. Right, this mucin, that's mucin that I found was the let me say the chemical potent was in mucus, right? That's mucin. It's an example of glycoprotein. Then we have what? Lipoprotein. Lipo simply means we have what? We have lipid, right? Plus what? Plus protein. And example of this bad guy here, which is lipoprotein, we have what? We have high density lipoprotein, we have low density lipoprotein. All these lipoprotein, they help to transport cholesterol in the blood, right? So that's basically what the function. So great leader, we have milk here. In this milk, there are some protein that are tightly attached to a metal, right? And in that case, we call them what? We call them metalloprotein. Metalloprotein is basically what? Is basically metal plus what? Protein. That's metalloprotein. Example of metalloprotein, we have hemoglobin, right? That's example of what? Of metalloprotein. Then we have powerful here. In this powerful, we have example, we have what? We have it to be phosphoprotein. It's an example of what? Of that's actually what? Conjugated protein. And from the word phosphoprotein, is contain phosphoric acid and what? A protein. It's containing phosphorus and what? A protein. That is phosphoprotein. Then the next one that we have is choices. Choices. Now, in this case of choices, just look at this area. Just look at this in this in this form. You understand? Choices simply represents a protein plus a pigment. You understand? It's an example of conjugated protein. A protein plus pigment. An example of pigment, we have what? We have chlorophyll, right? It's an example of pigment. Do you get sound? So in that case, that is chromoprotein. Right? So that's choices. Chromoprotein, glycoprotein, lipoprotein, metalloprotein, phosphoprotein, and chromoprotein. Right? They are examples of conjugated protein. Then this last one we simply represent nucleoprotein. And whenever you hear the word nucleoprotein, what does it mean? It basically means protein plus nucleic acid. And we have the type of nucleic acid. Nucleic acid we have for two types, right? That are found in the living system. We have the RNA, right? And also we have the DNA, right? Now, whenever we have let me say RNA plus plus protein. In that case, what do they call them? They call them ribozyme. Ribozyme, right? And you know what ribozyme is? They actually have a catalytic activity. You understand? So ribozyme is formed from RNA and also protein. When RNA wrap around protein, we have ribozyme. Then another one that we have the DNA. For the DNA case, you understand? And in this case, whenever we have protein plus DNA, in that case we call it chromatin, right? Chromatin. And in that case, that one is seen whenever the thread-like structure of DNA, right? Which is actually referred to as chromatin thread. It is called chromatin thread because it is going to wrap around a protein called histone protein. You understand what I'm saying? And histone protein, don't forget, is an example of globular protein. I don't actually include it here, but it's an example of globular protein. You understand what I'm saying? Because the DNA is going to wrap around histone protein to form a chromatin thread. That's basically what we have here. Now let's just go ahead and move to primary and secondary. Now once again, let me just come back here and revise this. Then for globular protein, we have hope made every healthy apple amazing, and that is hemoglobin, myoglobin, enzymes like amylase, right? Then hormones, insulin or glucagon. Then we have antibodies and also albumin, right? Then we have scleroprotein. Cool kids enjoy football. Cool collagen, kids keratin enjoy elastin. Football, that's fibrin. You understand? Then we move on to conjugated protein. Great leader makes powerful choices. Now, great leaders, great glycoprotein, which contain carbohydrates plus protein. Then we move on to leader, which is lipoprotein, lipid plus protein. Then we move on to make metalloprotein. And in that case, it contains metal plus protein, right? Then example, we have hemoglobin. Then we have powerful, which is phosphoric plus protein. Right, phosphoric acid plus protein, that's phosphoprotein. Then move on to choices, that's chromoprotein, right? And chromoprotein, it's this chromosomal represents a pigment. Pigment plus protein. Example, we have chlorophyll. Then moving on to now. Now simply include indicates nucleoprotein, the end part. Nucleoprotein. We are talking about nucleic acid and also protein. Example, we have RNA. Whenever it is RNA plus what protein, we have what ribozyme. And when it is what it's DNA plus what plus protein, it is what chromatin. So that's just example of what of globular, scleral, and conjugated what protein. Now we are going to move on to what to primary and secondary what protein. Now let's see what we have on that one. Basically, rub this side.